Okay, all right. Finally, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We are back with our special Yom Kippur edition. Let me just make sure everything is operating the way in which it should. Okay, very good. All right, everything looks good. Should be able to go ahead and get started. We are going to first have our Yom Kippur lesson, and then we'll have our little service thing that we do after the lesson. So we want to go ahead and get right into it. Start speaking about the Day of Atonement. The Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. Today we kind of want to talk about, in the midst of all of this, the idea of preparing to dwell. Preparing to dwell. I always feel like it's so close. It's so close to Sukkot. By the time we get to the Day of Atonement, and when you think about the Day of Atonement and what it represents in terms of judgment, when you think about Sukkot and what it represents in terms of dwelling with Messiah, the wedding feast, dwelling with Messiah eternally. But if you don't get through the Day of Atonement, you never make it to the dwelling. And so, I just wanted to think about that idea here. It's interesting when you look at the feasts as a whole, that we kind of deal with a type of progression from start to finish. And it all starts with Passover. Starts with Passover, and the finish is the last great or the 8th day. And so in the beginning, speaking about the beginning of the feast cycle, there's redemption, right? There's redemption. Passover is a time that reminds us of redemption, right? The redemption of Israel. If we look back at the original Passover in Egypt, that redemption that happened was a transfer of ownership, right? From Pharaoh being the owner of Israel, he was the controller, the master, the owner of the people, and there was a transfer of ownership from Pharaoh to the Most High. The Most High became the Elohim of the people, Israel. And so when we think about from a spiritual perspective, which Passover is a picture of our spiritual, us being spiritually connected to the Most High. And so that transfer of ownership that we experience, through Messiah, is from our flesh being our first owner, our first controller, right? And we go from our flesh, our carnality being our owner, our possessor, our master, to Yeshua HaMashiach, right? The Ruach HaKodesh, right? The Almighty. And so let's look at a few things. We're talking about atonement. We're talking about the progression that we see through the feasts, all the way up to the point that we are now dealing with atonement. But we want to first go back and think about, how this thing begins, right? And so let's look at Galatians real fast. So hold on a second. I got to get our... Oh, wait, that's the wrong thing. Let me pull up Galatians. One second here. Galatians 3. Oh, wait a second. Let me get rid of this. All right, here we go. Verse 3, verse 13. Let me put this up on the screen here. Oh, wait a second. I didn't share it. Okay, read for us Galatians 3, verse 13. What does that say?
Messiah redeemed us from the curse of the Torah, having become a curse for us. For it has been written, cursed is everyone who hangs upon a tree. Okay,
so Messiah, just like the Most High redeems Israel from bondage, and being the owner, the possession of Pharaoh, Messiah redeems us from the curse of the Torah. Not the Torah itself, but the curse of the Torah, the penalty of the transgression of the Torah, right? When we become transgressors, it separates us from we become separated from the Most High, right? So the Messiah redeems us. We're redeemed from the curse by the act that Messiah has done for us. Let's go over to 1 Corinthians 6. We're just building a little foundation here. 1 Corinthians 6, verse 20.
Verse 20 says, for you were bought with a price. Therefore, esteem Elohim in your body and in your spirit, which are of Elohim.
Okay, very good. So when we think about, again, what Messiah has done, the idea of redemption in general, this is our way in to the family, per se. Right? We were on the outside and we come inside. This is the beginning. Everything starts with redemption. Everything starts with what it is that Messiah did for us, right? And so we go back to thinking about the feast days, and this cycle that begins back at Passover. Is going somewhere, but it is in fact just the beginning, right? It's just the beginning back there. So let's go also over to Romans. Let's look at Romans here. Romans chapter 3. Romans chapter 3, verse 24.
Romans chapter 3:24, being declared right without paying by his favor through the redemption which is in Messiah Yeshua.
That version is interesting. Being declared right, or being justified freely without paying. We didn't pay. Messiah paid for us. He bought us back. Right? When you think about redemption, when you think about what it is that the Most High did for Israel, Israel didn't pay. Right? There was a price that was paid, but it was paid for us. Right? And so the same thing is true when we think about what Messiah did for us, being declared right, being justified, being called righteous in the eyes of the judge by his favor through redemption, which is in Messiah, through what Messiah did for us, right? And so when we think about this justification, this deals with one's initial salvation, how we get in the door. Just like when we think about Passover, that's the initial salvation. That's how Israel, who was predestined to be the people of the Most High. But at that time, they literally were the people of Pharaoh. Right? So the Most High had to come and take Israel away from that master and bring them unto himself. But we want to continue thinking about this because we're moving forward to atonement. Let's go over to Ephesians. Let's go over to Ephesians chapter 2. Ephesians chapter 2. Let's see here. Ephesians chapter 2. We want to look at, we'll start reading at the first verse here. Just read that first verse there.
It says, and you were dead in trespasses and sins, in which you once walked according to the course of this world, according to the ruler of the authority of the air, of the spirit that is now working in the sons of disobedience.
Okay, that's good right there. So when we think about, let's just look at this, because again, we are getting to atonement, but we're looking at the process, of which Yom Kippur is in the process. So we got to get there first, right? So we think about the idea of, how we come to Messiah. The process. We're looking at verse 1 and 2 over here. It says, and you hath he quickened. You were dead in trespasses and sins, right? We were in a state of death. We had a change in our status. We had a transition, not because of what we've done, but because of what the Master has done for us, that redemption, right? And when we think about redemption and understanding redemption, right? If you're that property that was lost, it's necessary for that kinsman redeemer to come and buy you back. You're in a state of you're in a lowly state, unable to rescue your own self, right? So you need for someone to come and rescue you, right? And so this is that beginning stages of redemption. And this is also when we think about, from a standpoint of Messiah coming and quickening us, right? It says us who were dead in trespasses and sin.
We was already dead.
You was already dead, right? If you fail to believe in Messiah, you just continue in your current state, right? It's not like you become someone who's destined to damnation, right? From the time that my little baby lied just this morning. Little baby Joseph lied this morning. He told a bold-faced lie. He said what he was going to do, but he had no intentions of doing what he said he was going to do. And I never taught him to be like that. I never taught him that. The child is just okay. Did my mic go out? Can we hear me on this thing? All right.
Want to do a sound check?
Yeah, check. Okay, good. All right, go ahead and read for us verse. Continue reading in verse 3.
Among whom also we all once lived in the lusts of our flesh, doing the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature children of wrath, as also the rest. But Elohim, who is rich in compassion, because of his great love, with which he loved us, even when we were dead in trespasses, made us alive together with Messiah. By favor you have been saved.
Okay, stop right there. So when we think about the fact that, again, dealing with the idea of, walking according to the course of this world, right? According to the prince of the power of the air, Hasatan, right? We're doing that. Okay, we're walking according to those things which Hasatan instigates, but we're also operating according to our flesh and our carnal mind, right? We don't need Hasatan to walk in unrighteousness, right? He is definitely an instigator of and a propagator of unrighteousness, but we don't need Hasatan for that. We have our own carnal mind, right? And so, we're worse off than what ancient ancient Israel was, because we got two old masters, right? We had two masters that's ruling over us. Our carnality and Hasatan, right? And then Messiah comes and makes a way in the richness of his mercy and his loving kindness towards us, right? Even when we were dead in our sins, he calls us and quickens us together with Messiah. All of this is what we look at and understand to have happened for us in what is pictured in Passover. Okay? That act, that redemptive act that happens, that justifies us. And justification, again, is not something that you do. Is how the judge looks at you. And so, so keep on going there.
That's 7?
8.
8, okay. For by favor you have been saved through belief, and not of yourselves. It is the gift of Elohim. It is not by works, so that one should boast. For we are his workmanship, created in Messiah Yeshua unto great works, which Elohim prepared beforehand that we should walk in them.
Okay, very good. So it's interesting when we look at these verses over here. We even in these verses we could see the process. We could see that we are saved through faith, right? Not by our own things that we're able to do, but what Messiah has done for us, right? Not of works, lest we should boast. We're not justified. We're not redeemed. Justification and redemption aren't the same, but our justification comes through the redemption of Messiah. And neither one of those things has anything to do with what we do. But verse 10 talks about the process that has begun that starts from our redemption. We are his workmanship, created in Messiah, unto good works. Unto good works, which Elohim prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. So when we think about, again, thinking about these feasts, right? The feasts, right? As a metaphorical cycle beginning with redemption, justification, our initial salvation. It leads to works. It leads to the works of the law. It leads to walking in righteousness. It leads to sanctification. And so we pledge to walk and begin walking without knowledge. But we set ourselves apart. When we think about unleavened bread, you make this pledge to get the leaven out. But at the time that you make this pledge to get the leaven out, you're not exactly sure all of the things that leaven is in. But you swore that you wouldn't eat the leaven, right? And so you make this commitment. You set yourself apart, but you're not exactly sure. Right. You didn't count the costs all the way. Just the part that it was good enough. The Master Yeshua came and he made this way for me. But then after that, now we learn the ways and we begin to do them, and the covenant becomes sealed with Shavuot. Right? We have now the law comes down. It's interesting that the law don't come down at the beginning, but that's just how it happened. Whenever the law did come down, Israel said, "Whatever you say, we'll do." Meanwhile, they ain't know what he was getting ready to say.
In fact, they couldn't even take it when they heard it.
Yeah, and then when they heard it, they couldn't even stand it, right? But that's how the process goes. You say that I will serve you. I'll set myself apart. I'll get the leaven out of my life, even though I don't know all the things that got leaven in it. And then
still don't know all this.
Yeah, you forever learning about it. And then you get the laws, statutes, and commands. That's Shavuot. You have the sealing of the covenant. The Most High says all the things that he likes. After you already said that you was going to follow those things before you heard them. And then after that, then now we get to work, right? Because this thing ain't about the individual, it's about the collective, right? The Most High is calling for his nation to be restored, right? And so we're doing that one person at a time. And so now that you have been sealed, now that you've been sealed, now you begin to sound the alarm, right? And that's where we were at, 10 days ago, right, with Yom Teruah. And so, but you're sounding the alarm for atonement. You're sounding the alarm because judgment is coming. And so once judgment comes, if we continue what we started, then we go on to life. If you continue what you started, you go on to life. But if you stop, then you go on to death. Right? This thing is a living process. It's not, like, this kind of watered down message that we get. You come down and you say these magic words, and then now you're saved, and there's nothing that you can do to reverse the process, right? This is, saying that it's watered down is not even doing justice to the perversion of what that is, right? Because this life is just like we see it played out for us. It's a process. Yep. You get a clean slate. That's justification through the redemption, right? You get a clean slate, but the Most High gives you instructions to keep your slate clean. In fact, He gives you the power, strength, and ability to do it as well. But he expects for us to actually use that strength, power, and ability. Right? So if He gives you the tools to perform the task, and you don't perform the task, whose fault is that? It's not His fault. He's giving you everything that you need to do it. He gives you the instructions. He gives you the tools. But sometimes we can have the tools and the instructions and it still be a hard thing. Right? But He gives us the wisdom and the understanding to be able to do all that He wants for us to be doing through the Ruach HaKodesh, if we follow the leading and guiding of it. But we have to understand that this is, in fact, a process. And so, again, when we think about the idea of preparing to dwell, right, judgment is coming. And so just because we've been redeemed, we can look at ancient Israel. All of Israel was redeemed from Pharaoh. But all of Israel didn't make it to the promised land. And so why would that not be giving us this spiritual blueprint for what life is? That's what it's doing. You receive redemption, and it's of no strength of your own. It's not of works, but by grace that you were saved. But you got to make it out the wilderness.
Yeah, remember the very first part of the Exodus. The first act of obedience was what? Putting that being covered by the blood. That's right.
Yeah.
Taking it, because I'm sure if anybody that didn't do that first step, that first act of obedience, you weren't covered by the blood. That spirit went out to check. And all who wasn't covered, suffered something,
Yeah. And it's just the Most High showing us that there's a part for us to play. He's doing all the heavy lifting, but He wants for us to be able to operate in obedience. And if it was just about getting that lamb and killing it and putting that blood on the doorpost, that, as you say, that initial act of obedience, which is a picture of faith, because you're believing, that this thing that you're doing is going to actually do something for you, right? And so that act of obedience that was necessary for the people to do, the same thing is true for us. When we look at the original uh, disciples, the apostles, when somebody said that they that they believed in Messiah, that they wanted for Yeshua to be um, their redeemer, there was an initial act of obedience that they partook in. They all got immersed in water, right? And so these things all parallel with each other, right? And so again, when we think about the idea of Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, um, this time is about uh, judgment. It's about the covering of sin, right? Kippur is a word that means to pacify, to pardon, to make reconciliation. Let's look at Leviticus. Let's go to Leviticus 16, 15 through 19 here. Let's look at this here.
What is Leviticus?
16. First of all, let's just look at I want to just look at the word, and then we'll talk about these verses here. We'll read them here, but I want to look at this word. Oh, wait a second here. Verse 16. Okay, here's the word here. To cover. To cover, the word kafar is to cover, expiate, placate. My throat needs a little placation right now. A little thirsty. Getting a little dry. All this talking. Um, my appetite needs to be appeased, right? When you think about kafar, it's an appeasing of appetite and pacify. So when we think about atonement now, we're talking about the wrath of the Most High. He has this wrath that he's ready to distribute to those that are in transgression. And so that need for that wrath to be poured out is pacified, right? Is pardoned, is placated. He has a desire to execute judgment against those that have transgressed against him. And then atonement is that aspect of that desire, that need, the necessity for that wrath to be executed, to be chilled out, right? It's cool now, right? That's what kafar is, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you think about that word, let me see that little the little whiteboard over there, so we can see, have a visual representation of this word here, kafar. Okay, so when we look at this word in the ancient, and let me put this over here so we can see it here. When we see this in the ancient, we have the kaf, that is a open palm, and the pei, that is a open mouth, and the resh, the man's head. And so you have this covering of the mouth, that pronounces judgment against the man, right? So there's judgment that's being covered, that's coming forth, and then the mouth, the hand comes and covers the mouth so that the judgment can't go against the man. And so when we see with kafar, that whole little picture that goes on, what's actually happening, right? And so if we go back now, again, thinking about the process, right? Because we want to get back to being with the Most High. We've been separated from the Most High, as we've been looking with the Torah portions, because of sin, right? And we want to make it back to dwelling with the Most High. And it's like we get an invitation to come back. Even at this point, when you talk about the idea of somebody who's made it to, like in the process, made it to Yom Teruah, right? You made it all the way to the point of doing the work for the Most High. Even though we have and experience the presence of the Most High, we're still waiting for the completion of that when we literally dwell with Him, right? And so we're preparing for judgment, actually. We're preparing to get to that place where we've lived our life, we've done all of the things that He called for us to do, and He says to us, well done, my good and faithful servant, right? We're waiting for that place. But you don't get there before judgment. To know whether your sins have been covered. Mm-hmm. Let's look over at Leviticus 16. Read 15 and 19, because we want to talk about the fact that even though we've already been dedicated to Messiah, we've already been joined to Him, we still need judgment, because there's a total cleansing that happens in atonement. A total cleansing. And last time I checked, the Most High, the Ruach HaKodesh, was still working on me. But we're talking about a total cleansing, right? There's still a need for the completion of our atonement to take place. It's interesting when you hear these mainstream Christians talk about the fact that what are we out here doing celebrating atonement? We've been atoned through Yeshua.
We got people celebrating feast days who feel that way too.
Which is odd.
They do all the feast days except for atonement.
That's odd to me, because when you look and understand what we're about to read over here, there is... See, the thing about when we look at Leviticus, they did this thing every year, which showed that even the complete thing that they did, it wasn't finished, because they needed to do it again next year. But what Messiah has done for us, we understand to have been the completion of it all, but we still wait for the actual completion to happen, because there's things that, aren't done. And so let's look at this. Let's read Leviticus 16:15 through 19. Oh, hold on. Let me just put it up here real quick.
Chapter 16.
Leviticus 16, verse 15 through 19.
Ready?
Yeah.
And he shall slay the goat of the sin offering, which is for the people, and shall bring its blood inside the veil, and shall do with the blood as he did with the blood of the bull, and sprinkle it on the lid of atonement, and in front of the lid of the atonement. And he shall make atonement for the set apart place because of the uncleanness of the children of Israel, and because of their transgressions and all their sins. And so he does for the tent of appointment, which is dwelling with them in the midst of their uncleanness. And no man shall be in the tent of appointment when he goes in to make atonement in the set apart place until he comes out. And he shall make atonement for himself and for his household and for all the assembly of Israel. And he shall go out to the slaughter place that is before Yahweh and make atonement for it. And he shall take some of the blood of the bull and some of the blood of the goat and put it on the horns of the slaughter place all around. And he shall sprinkle some of the blood on it with his finger 7 times and cleanse it and set it apart from the uncleanness of the children of Israel.
Okay, very good. So there is a cleansing of the people that has to take place. There is a cleansing of the tabernacle that has to take place. There's a cleansing of the set apart place that has to take place. All of the and it's a total cleansing. And it's a cleansing that it gets dirtied up again as the people continue through the year. Right? Because whenever the daily things happen and life happens and people bring their offerings and there's the daily offerings that they're doing already, these things kind of it's the most holy place, but there's a type of defilement that happens even in the most holy place where it itself needs to be cleansed. Almost as if there was like a transfer of the filth from the people into the place. And so it becomes necessary for the high priest to go and cleanse the tent of appointment, to cleanse the set apart place, to cleanse the place where the the altar where the things are sacrificed. All these things need cleansed, and the priest goes in, and the people wait outside for him to come back. And so when we think about this whole process here, this again is just a picture of something that Messiah does for us. Right? It's just a picture of something that he does for us. But there's a finality to it. And so let's look at let's keep on reading. Let's look at 20 through 22.
When he has finished atoning for the set apart place and the tent of appointment and the slaughter place, he shall bring the live goat. Then Aaron shall lay both his hands on the head of the live goat and shall confess over it all the crookedness of the children of Israel and all their transgressions and all their sins, and shall put them on the head of the goat and shall send it away into the wilderness by the hand of a fit man. And the goat shall bear on itself all their crookedness to a land cut off. Thus he shall send the goat away into the wilderness.
Okay, very good. So we not only have the cleansing of the most holy place and the altar and the tent of appointment, the tent of meeting, but we also have this dealing with of all sin. All sin is dealt with, and so all I gotta do is sit up here and look, turn on the TV, and recognize that there's sin in the world. All I gotta do is sit up here and look um, at what's going on all around me to know that there's still sin in the world. And so a total fulfillment of this Day of Atonement could not have been completed because there's still iniquity. There's still transgression. And there's still sin. It says he deals with all of these things. So the fulfillment of this is a total eradication of sin and all of its components. Right? You know, we think about sin and its components. They're all listed here. You know, you have sin,
Yeah.
verse 21. You have sin, which is chata, which is you just missing the mark. Right? This word here, this 24:03. Right? This word here means for you to have missed the mark. Right? So you're aiming for the target, but you miss. You're trying to do what's right, but your sights are a little off, right? You miss. That's the root is this word here, to miss, right? Sin. But on atonement, that's dealt with, right? On atonement, that's dealt with. But another thing that's dealt with is transgressions. He says transgressions. That's this word here. Transgressions. Hesha. Revolt. Right? Transgression. Trespass. This is something that's rebellion. Revolt. There's a way, but you're not necessarily trying to do that. Right? This over here don't have anything to do with trying to hit the mark, right? This is just, working out of bounds over here. This transgression, right? You're not that concerned with trying to get on task over here. This word over here, and then, but that's dealt with. That's dealt with on a Day of Atonement. Right? That's one of the things here. And then you also have it's translated here as crookedness or iniquity. The Hebrew is avon. Avon, which is perversity, right? Iniquity, perversity, perversion. This is a kind of a state of transgression. When you're in a continual state of transgression, this is iniquity. But this again is dealt with at atonement. And so when we think about the fulfillment of atonement is for to have all of these things to have been dealt with. And there's all types of iniquity, transgression, and sin out here right now. And so there's still something that we wait for to happen.
The whole earth needs to be atoned for.
The whole everything that lives, right? And so let's look over here. Let's go over to the end. Because we can see what happens at the end, but the thing is, if we can see it in the end, then that means it didn't happen yet. That means that means these people don't have no leg to stand on when they talk about the fact that what are we doing this for? Well, I'll tell you what we're doing it for, because Revelation 20. Revelation 20, verse 7. Read 20, verse 7 down through 10.
It says, and when the 1,000 years have ended, Satan shall be released from his prison, and shall go out to lead the nations astray, which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together for battle, whose number is as the sand of the sea, and they come up over the breadth of the earth, and surround the camp of the set apart ones, and the beloved city. The fire shall come down from Elohim out of heaven, and consume them. And the devil, who led them astray, was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet are, and they shall be tortured day and night forever and ever.
Okay, so when you think about the fact that the instigator, your former master, still got some things to do, and there's still something that got to happen to him, then how can there be an end right now to iniquity, transgression, and sin? There can't be. There isn't. Right? We don't even need this scripture to know that there's iniquity, transgression, and sin in the world. But what this helps us to understand is the fact that there's something that's yet to come that hasn't happened yet, that is typified with atonement.
Gotta get the devil out the way.
The devil he's active. He's out here, right? Keep on reading. Read 11 through 15.
And I saw a great white throne, and him who was sitting on it, and from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and no place was found for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, standing before the throne, and books were open. And another book was open, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged from what was written in the books according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead who were in it, and dead, and Sheol gave up the dead who were in them. And they were judged, each one according to his works. And death and Sheol were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death. Keep going?
Yeah, 15.
Okay, and if anyone was found, anyone was not found, written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire.
Okay, very good. So, again, now we talking about over here, this is final judgment. This is a final judgment. This is a final doing away of all those things that cause for us to be separated from the Most High. The ultimate penalty of sin is death. And he take death and the grave and throw all that stuff in the lake of fire. And so again, when we think about the fact that there's what's represented in the Day of Atonement is a cleansing of the people and an atoning for all sin, transgression, and iniquity. And then when we look in Revelation, we see the destruction of these things, sin and death. And so something is missing here. You know, in regards to these people that have these things to say about atonement. Like the fall feast, when we think about the fall feast in general, all of them need there's a total fulfillment that is lacking from all of these things. Trumpets is kind of in the works, but atonement didn't happen yet. And you got to have atonement in order to get to the place of dwelling with the Most High. Atonement come first. And then after atonement, now you can dwell.
It's like cleaning yourself up. You don't go to the Most High dirty.
Mm-mm.
You gotta be cleaned.
You got to be clean.
Just like when Moses presented himself, take your sandals off. What you doing? Like, you're dirtying it up. You gotta come correct. Like,
Yeah. When you think about Yeshua and he gives the parable about the wedding feast. He said, "Here, you take these wedding clothes and give them to the participants to come, but you had to accept the garments and come."
Yeah.
And so there's that in of itself gives you a picture of a cleansing that has to happen, a total cleansing, right? So let's look over at Hebrews as well. Because this to me is pretty concrete over here. Hebrews 9:11 through 15.
So Messiah having become a high priest of the coming good matters through the greater and more perfect tent, not made with hands, that is, not of his creation, entered into the most set apart place once for all, not with the blood of goats and calves, but with his own blood, having obtained everlasting redemption. For if the blood of bulls and goats and the ashes of a heifer, sprinkling the defiled, sets apart for the cleansing of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of Messiah, who through the everlasting Spirit offered himself unblemished to Elohim, cleanse your conscience from dead works to serve the living Elohim. And because of this, he is the mediator of a renewed covenant, so that death having taken place for redemption of the transgressions under the first covenant, those who are called might receive the promise of the everlasting inheritance.
Okay, very good. So the thing that he did, that redemption that he did, that Messiah did, causes for us to receive a promise of everlasting inheritance. But again, it is necessary for us to continue in the place that he has placed us in. Not only that, but when we think about the actions of the priest, he went in to the most holy place with the blood, and then the people waited in anticipation for him to return. Yeshua did the same thing, because again, the tabernacle and all that was a pattern of things in the heavenlies. And so just like the priest only did it because it was a picture of what Messiah was going to do once and for all, as it says right here. But the difference is that the priest didn't come back yet. He didn't come out yet. We still out here waiting for him to come out. Because when he came out, it was done. All of the things was done. Everything was cleansed. All the sin was taken care of when he comes back. But until he comes back out of the thing, the process isn't completed yet. There's still some steps that need to be taking place. And so again, when we think about the feast days, when we look back at the spring feast, those things have been fulfilled. There's the redemption has happened. Right? It says over here we've obtained an everlasting redemption. You've obtained it already. Not because of what you have done or are even able to do, but what Messiah has done for you. The blood of bulls and goats wasn't able to cause you to obtain this everlasting redemption. They was barely able to cleanse the flesh. They was able to do it, but then you got dirty again. There was a type of cleansing that took place from those acts. But now we're talking about a total cleansing that takes place through the blood of Messiah, and we're kind of in the process of that. Right? He's cleansing us day by day. The process is going on. And so again, we think about atonement and what this represents. It represents the idea of preparing to dwell. We're getting ready for the wedding feast. We're getting ready for it even right now with looking at ourselves and looking at the things that we have done, the places that we need to come up a little higher, the things that we need to give to the priest that he need to put on the back of that goat and send off into the wilderness. Not because it's the end, but because we want to be with Messiah and dwell with him. But we cannot dwell with him until we get cleansed. Right? Until we put on these garments that he has for us. And so again, when we think about atonement, we think about it as being the judgment that comes from the Most High. And we think about the idea that this word kafar means to cover and to placate and to pacify and to expiate the Most High's wrath. We must continue to walk out this gift that's been given to us so that the Most High's wrath don't come upon us. Like, we have to continue walking in this way. It's not like we just went through this thing and like a switch comes on and then you're just all good.
Well, I can't just say I'm saved. I'm covering the blood of Jesus. I already been saved. So
No.
What you talking about?
No, you can't just say that. You must continue to walk. I mean, because the thing is that you got people out here saying that, and their lives look crazy.
Yeah. I would say,
but I'm a Christian though. Huh?
I would say back in 1997. I don't know what you're talking about. I've been saved.
That's what people say, right? But their lives don't exemplify that. And so that's why when we look at these things and understanding that this is a process, because you have to be ready to dwell. We're getting ready. We're getting ready to dwell with the master, right? We got our things together, right? I got my lights for my tent. I got some sleeping bags. I got all of the things. We trying to figure out about warmth and all of that. We're preparing to dwell. But you're not just showing up though. Like there's a preparation that happens. And so again, we think about the cycle of the feast days, and we think about the Day of Atonement afflicting your soul. We're thinking about the idea of preparing to dwell with the Master. We have to be looking at ourselves and understanding, differentiating the things that's inside of us that's carnal from those things that's inside of us that's of the Spirit, and removing those carnal things from us. Because that's the unspoken part of Leviticus chapter 16. Because it says over there that they confess their sins and the priest goes and puts them on the goat. But before you're able to confess it, you have to be able to understand and recognize that thing first before you're able to hand that thing over for it to be forgiven. And so there's an introspective part that's necessary in preparing to dwell, because that's where you're getting to, right? Judgment is just like the entrance fee.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, see if you can come in or not.
Yeah, it's just whether you're able to get in the door or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not the end all be all for those who are in Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that comes after that. Right? And we have to be able to make it to that place. I just want to end off just looking at let's look at 1 Corinthians over here. And before we go ahead and do our little thing that we do over here, 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians. Let's just look at some of this. Read through some of this chapter, verse, starting with verse 1.
But brothers, I made known to you the good news, which I brought as good news to you, which you also did receive, and in which you stand, through which also you are being saved, if you hold fast that word I brought as good news to you. Otherwise, you have belief in vain.
Paul over here is saying some interesting things, but when we think about the process of the feast, we see the proclamation. He's made these proclamations. I brought this good news to you, and you received it. But it's necessary for you to hold fast to the things that you receive. Otherwise, your pursuits don't mean anything. He's talking to the people. He's talking to the assemblies over here. You had Yom Teruah. You had the proclamation of the gospel. Make sure that you hold fast so that when judgment happens, you're ready. When atonement arrives, you're in good standing. Keep on going.
It says, for I delivered to you at the first, which I also received, that Messiah died for our sins according to the Scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he was raised up the third day according to the Scriptures, and that he was seen by Kepha, Peter, then by the 12. After that, he was seen by over 500 brothers at one time, of whom the greater part remain till now, but some have fallen asleep. After that, he was seen by Jacob, then by all the emissaries. And last of all, he was seen by me also, as if to one born prematurely. For I am the least of the emissaries, uh, who I who am not worthy to be called an emissary, because I persecuted the assembly of Elohim. But by the favor of Elohim I am what I am, and his favor toward me was not in vain, but I labored much more than they all, yet not I, but the favor of Elohim with me. Whether then it was I or they, so we proclaim, and so you believe. And if Messiah is proclaimed that has been raised from the dead, how do some among you say that there is no resurrection from the dead? And if there is no resurrection from the dead, the Messiah has not been raised. And if Messiah has not been raised, then our proclaiming is empty, and your belief is also empty. And we are also found false witnesses of Elohim, because we have not witnessed of Elohim that he has raised up Messiah, whom he did not raise up, if then the dead are not raised up, or not raised. For if the dead are not raised, then neither Messiah has been raised. And if Messiah has not been raised, your belief is to no purpose. You are still in your sins. Then also those who have fallen asleep in Messiah have perished. If in this life only we have expectation in Messiah, we are of all men the most wretched. But now Messiah has been raised from the dead, and has become the first fruit of those having fallen asleep. For since the death is through a man, resurrection of the dead is also through a man. For as all died in Adam, also so also all shall be made alive in Messiah, and each in his own order, Messiah the first fruits, then those who are of Messiah at his coming.
Okay, hold on one second. So when we think about again this process that happens, again understanding what Messiah has even come to do, we see that even the verbiage that's used over here in terms of Messiah being called the first fruits of those that have fallen asleep. Again, we understand first fruits. First fruits is not about, that thing, that first fruit, but it's an indication that there's more to come after. And so again, when we think about what Messiah was, as it relates to the first fruits of those that falls asleep, because of what he has made available to us, that is the Ruach HaKodesh, now we have that seed that's within us, that's been planted, that grows inside of us, that's slowly transforming us and changing us into the likeness of Messiah. And so again, all of this is getting us to the place where we're ready. Messiah said he's going away to prepare a place. And so we're here walking in that Ruach HaKodesh, walking in the Spirit, so that we're able to be transformed by the renewing of our minds, so that we're able to, be waiting in anticipation for Messiah to return and us to be ready in our white linen clothes. Let's drop down a little bit to 35.
But someone might say, how are the dead raised up? And with what body do they come? Senseless one. What you sow is not made alive unless it dies. As to what you sow, you do not sow the body which is to be, but a bare grain. It might be wheat or some other grain. But Elohim gives it a body as he wishes, to each seed a body of its own. All flesh is not the same flesh, but there is one flesh of men, another flesh of beasts, and another of fishes, and another of birds. And there are heavenly bodies and earthly bodies, but the esteem of the heavenly is truly one, and the esteem of the earthly is another. One esteem of the sun, and another esteem of the moon, and another esteem of the stars. For the star differs from star in esteem. So also is the resurrection of the dead. It is sown in corruption. It is raised in incorruption. It is sown in disrespect. It is raised in esteem. It is sown in weakness. It is raised in power. It is sown a natural body. It is raised a spiritual body. There is a natural body and there is a spiritual body.
Okay, so again, we think about the finality of what we see with what's pictured for us in the Day of Atonement. We're able to see, especially when we look at what Paul's talking about over here in terms of, this sowing and this raising. I don't know about you, but sometimes I wake up and my body hurts. But that spiritual body, though, that's a whole other thing. And so, do I sit up here and say that, because, Yeshua died for my sins, that my body don't hurt? My body be hurt. You know what I'm saying? There is more to come. And so, people are understanding, these things that have to do with the scriptures and the Most High's holy days and times. He's given us these days and times so that we're able to understand fully what it is that he's done for us. In order for us to go from corruption to incorruption, this flesh must die. This flesh must die. For the Most High, for Messiah to get to the place where he totally eradicates sin, well, this sinful flesh has to be done away with. And these things have not happened yet. I feel like there's so much lost by people who say that they are followers and believers of the Bible when we don't, we're not able to understand these things that are given to us. And it's not even like, this is, I'm reading in the New Testament over here. And we just read what Yeshua did with the priest, the Day of Atonement practices that he does. If you have any understanding of what the original Day of Atonement practice of the priest was, you understand that what Yeshua is doing isn't finished. Even though on the torture stake he said it is finished.
It was finished from the beginning.
Well,
I mean,
he was
it had to
sacrificed from
happen
the
at the time.
beginning, but when he said it is finished, he wasn't talking about all the things that he had to do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
When he said he was finished, he talked about his life.
Yeah.
He died.
Parts. There's parts to it.
He died. You know, you want to spiritualize it is finished, but really, you know, his life, his journey, he did the thing that he was supposed to do, and that was die and be a sacrifice. That was finished. But everything that he had to do, it wasn't finished. Okay, so that being said, you know, again, when we think about the Day of Atonement, um, it for us is, you know, a time of introspection. It's a time of looking at yourself. It's a time of evaluating um, your life and understanding, you know, where you are. And it's about preparing to dwell. We know that we're working towards dwelling with the master forever. And so, that being said, we want to always be continually striving to walk, um, you know, the narrow path. We want to continue to keep on moving forward. We want to always be able to recognize that there's going to be things that are trying to pull us back, to stop us from moving forward, obstacles and things that are getting in our way. But we want to continue to move forward and go in the direction that the Most High has called for us to be going. And you know, this Day of Atonement is that picture of that last part of the process uh, 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 of preparation before you know, the wedding feast. And so we always want to kind of keep in mind the spiritual significance of these days and times. Atonement is judgment, but it's just as much the preparation for judgment as it is, you know, the idea of judgment itself. You know, we have to be about the business of allowing the spirit inside of us to remove all the things that's in us that the Most High don't want to be in us, so that He's able to you know, be with us and have a people that is a people without spot or blemish. Okay, so that being said, that's all I have to say about that. Does anybody have any uh, last thoughts, questions, comments before we get into the next phase of the situation? Okay, so, all right, so that being said, we now are going to go ahead and do the all chet. We'll go through some traditional readings here, and what let's see, where's my so what we'll do is we'll get to a place where we all say this together, and we'll read the Hebrew. We'll read the Hebrew, and then we'll read the English, you know, when we say it together. So this here is Ba'al Kulam Aloha Slichot.
Oh, you can't put it up
Oh, my fault. I didn't even, I'm looking at it like it's up there.
like we can see it. I'm looking there.
Oh, you're right. I can't put it over.
You can't?
You can minimize it. Minimize that.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Oh, it's not up there? Oh, minimize it.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Share the same screen. Mirror the screen.
Mirror this screen. Oh, hold on. Hold on 1 second. I know what he did. One moment. Oh, there we go. Okay. Hold on 1 second here. Okay, very good. All right, perfect. Okay, so, all right. So, like I said, we'll all read this in the Hebrew together, and then we'll read the English whenever we get to the part. There's some reading that we'll do that I'll read prior, and then when I get to the place, I'll say we all read together, and then we'll say this: Va'al kulam Eloha shlichot shlach lanu machal lanu kapar lanu. Oh yeah, compare. It says it right there.
We practice that.
Oh, you want to practice it? Go ahead.
Va'al kulam Aloha Sukkot Salach Lanu Lakal Lanu Kaper.
Okay, you got it? You can practice in your minds as we as I go over these the reading. Okay, hold on 1 second.
And then we say the English after.
Yeah. I said not till I say. Because we got this other stuff to go to first. All right. Okay, remember us, O Yahweh, our Elohim, for our good, and be mindful of us for a life of blessing. In accordance with thy promise of salvation and mercy, spare us, be gracious unto us, have compassion upon us, and save us. Unto thee have we lifted our eyes, for thou art a gracious and merciful Elohim and King. Our Elohim and Elohim of our fathers, pardon our iniquities on this atonement day. Forgive our transgressions and our sins, and make them pass away from thine eyes, as it is written in Scripture. I, even I, am he that forgives your transgressions for mine own sake. I have blotted out as a cloud your transgressions, and as a mist your sins. Return unto me, for I have redeemed you. For on this day shall atonement be made for you, to cleanse you from all your sins shall you be clean before Yahweh. Our Elohim and Elohim of our fathers, sanctify us by thy commandments, and grant that our portion be in thy Torah. Satisfy us with thy goodness, and gladden us with thy salvation. Make our hearts pure to serve thee in truth, for thou art the forgiver of Israel, and the pardoner of the tribes of Yeshurun in every generation, and besides thee there is none other. Blessed art thou, O Yahweh, thou King, who pardons and forgives our iniquities and the iniquities of the house of Israel, who makes our trespasses to pass away. Thou King over all the earth, who sanctifies Israel and the day of atonement. O Yahweh our Elohim, be gracious unto thy people Israel, and accept our prayer. Restore worship to thy sanctuary, and receive and love and favor the supplication of Israel. May the worship of thy people be ever acceptable unto thee. O may our eyes witness thy return in mercy to Zion. Blessed art thou, O Yahweh, who restores thy divine presence to Zion.
Oh, yeah.
We thankfully acknowledge that thou art Yahweh our Elohim, and the Elohim of our fathers unto all eternity, the rock of our lives, the shield of our salvation. Through every generation we will be grateful unto thee and declare thy praise for our lives, which are entrusted into your hands, for our souls, which are in thy care, for thy mercies, which are daily with us, and for thy wonderful goodness towards us at all times, evening, morning, and noon. Thou art good, and thy love never fails. Thou art merciful, and thy kindness never ceases.
Yeah.
We have ever hoped in thee. For all this, thy name, O our divine ruler, shall be blessed and exalted forever. Inscribe all the children of thine covenant for a happy life, and may all the living do homage unto thee forever, and praise thy name in truth, O Elohim, who art our salvation and our help. Blessed be you, Yahweh, beneficent one. Unto thee it is seemly to give praise. Our Father, grant peace and well-being, blessing and grace, loving kindness and mercy unto us and unto all Israel, thy people. Bless us, O our Father, all of us together with the light of thy presence. For by that light thou hast given us, O Yahweh our Elohim, the Torah of life, loving kindness, righteousness, blessing, and mercy, life and peace. May it be good in thy sight at all times to bless Israel and all thy children with thy peace. In the book of life, blessing, peace, and good sustenance may we be remembered and inscribed before thee, we and all thy people, the house of Israel. Blessed art thou, O Yahweh, who makes peace. Okay, you know the secrets of the universe and the hiddenmost mysteries of all living. You probe all innermost chambers and test thoughts and emotions. Nothing is hidden from you, and nothing is concealed from your eyes. And so may it be your will, Yahweh our Elohim, and the Elohim of our forefathers, that you atone for us all our errors, and you forgive us all our iniquities, and you pardon us all our willful sins. For the sin that we have sinned before you under duress and willingly, and for the sin that we have sinned before you through hardness of heart, for the sin that we have sinned before you without knowledge, and for the sin that we have sinned before you with the utterance of our lips, for the sin that we have sinned before you through immorality, and for the sin that we have sinned before you in public or in private, for the sin that we have sinned before you with knowledge and with deceit, and for the sin that we have sinned before you through speech, and for the sin that we have sinned before you through deceiving a friend, and for the sin that we have sinned before you through inner thoughts, and for the sin that we have sinned before you in a session of vice, and for the sin that we have sinned before you with insincere confession, and for the sin that we have sinned before you through abusing parents and teachers, and for the sin that we have sinned before you willfully and carelessly, for the sin that we have sinned before you by exercising power, and for the sin that we have sinned before you through desecration of the name, for the sin that we have sinned before you through impure lips, and for the sin that we have sinned before you through foolish speech, and for the sin that we have sinned before you through the evil inclination, and for the sin that we have sinned before you knowingly and unknowingly. And we all say together, Ba'al Hulam Eloha Slichot Salach Lanu Machal Lanu Kaper Lanu. Forgive them all, O Elohim of forgiveness. Forgive us, pardon us, atone for us. For the sin that we have sinned before you through dishonesty and unfaithfulness, and for the sin that we have sinned before you by causing subversience through bribery, for the sin that we have sinned before you through scorning, and for the sin that we have sinned before you through evil tongue, and for the sin that we have sinned before you in commercial dealings, and for the sin that we have sinned before you with food and drink, and for the sin that we have sinned before you through interest and extortion, and for the sin that we have sinned before you through haughtiness, and for the sin that we have sinned before you with the idle chatter of our lips, and for the sin that we have sinned before you with the inquisitive eyes, for the sin that we have sinned before you with haughty eyes, and for the sin that we have sinned before you with brazenness. We all say together, Ba'al Hulam Aloha Slichot Salach Lanu Machal Lanu Kaper Lanu. Forgive them all, O Elohim of forgiveness. Forgive us, pardon us, atone for us. For the sin that we have sinned before you in throwing off your yoke, and for the sin that we have sinned before you in judging unfairly, and for the sin that we have sinned before you through trapping a friend, and for the sin that we have sinned before you through a begrudging eye, and for the sin that we have sinned before you in frivolousness, and for the sin that we have sinned before you in obstinacy, for the sin that we have sinned before you with legs that run to do evil, and for the sin that we have sinned before you with gossip mongering, and for the sin that we have sinned before you through vain oath-taking, and for the sin that we have sinned before you through baseless hatred, and for the sin that we have sinned before you through withholding loans, and for the sin that we have sinned before you through confusion of heart. We say together, Va'al Hulam Eloha Slichot Slach Lanu Machal Lanu Kaper Lanu. Forgive them all, O Elohim of forgiveness. Forgive us, pardon us, and atone for us. My Elohim, before I was fashioned, I was unworthy, and now that I have been fashioned, it is as if I had not been fashioned. I am dust in my life, and will surely be so in my death. Before you, I am like a vessel filled with shame and humiliation. May it be your will, Yahweh, my Elohim, and the Elohim of my forefathers, that I not sin again. And what I have sinned before you, may you wipe away in your abundant mercy. My Elohim, guard my tongue from evil and my lips from speaking deceitfully. To those that curse me, let my soul be silent, and let my soul be like dust. To everyone, open my heart to your Torah. Then my soul will pursue your commandments. As for all those who design evil against me, speedily nullify their counsel and disrupt their design. May it be your will, Yahweh, my Elohim, and the Elohim of my forefathers, that human jealousy may not rise up against me, nor my jealousy upon others. May I not become angry today, and may I not anger you. Rescue me from the evil inclination and place in my heart submissiveness and humility. O our King and our Elohim, cause your name to be unified in the world. Rebuild your city. Lay the foundation of your house. Perfect your sanctuary. Gather in the scattered exiles. Redeem your sheep. Gladden your congregation. Act for your name's sake. Act for your right hand's sake. Act for your Torah's sake. Act for your sanctity's sake, that your beloved ones may be given rest, and that your right hand save and respond to me. May the expressions of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart find favor before you, Yahweh, my rock and my redeemer. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Okay, so that concludes our atonement services. We hope that everyone here listening is able to have a good rest of the Shabbaton. I don't want to say enjoy your fast. Let your fast be hard.
People say let your fast.
Let your fast be hard. And Shabbat Shalom to you all. And y'all willing, we'll be back on tomorrow on regular Shabbat.
Shabbat
Okay.
Shalom.
All right. Shabbat Shalom.